Lucky. What's today's secret word?
Today's secret word.
Let me show you how many kids die because of that word on a daily. Let me show you how many gallons of blood pour from kids' wrists because of that word. Let me show you how many families are broken because of that word. So say the word one more damn time and use it in a song and insist it means nothing, and I just am offended by it. Say faggot.
Great work, everybody.
Hello everyone, and welcome to the third episode of Tumblrisms. Apologies about the extended break, the brief hiatus, if you will, between the last episode and this one. Going forward, I'm looking to try to do a bi-monthly, maybe even a weekly thing with this particular video series. And what can I say, a hectic schedule? I got consumed with some things, and I just couldn't find the time to get this out to you, but hopefully that's a one-off thing, and going forward that won't be an issue. You know, fingers crossed. But enough of that. We're not here to talk about video scheduling. We are here to talk about Tumblr. And boy, do we have something spectacular today. We are talking about cis scum. And if you don't know what that is, it's probably because you are one. You disgusting heterosexual dog. Now, generally, these Tumblr terms seem to stay within the sphere of Tumblr, or at least within the sphere of social justice warriors. You may see a little bit of it on, I don't know, Reddit, perhaps, SRS, a little bit. But for the most part, you're not going to encounter it too much outside of the realm of Tumblr. This is a different story. This particular thing, this prefix of suffering that has been, given out so kindly by the special snowflake community to normal people is starting to find itself everywhere. You might even run across it in a few sociology courses in college. You never know. You never know. Luckily, we have a Tumblr, as usual, to guide us through this journey of exploration and learning. And it's called dearcispeople.tumblr.com. I say let's jump in. Let's take a look at this and find out how to be more sensitive and better people. Well, it looks like our luck is holding up, as with the previous two Tumblrs we visited, this one happens to have an About section, where it sort of lays the groundwork for everybody who's visiting to kind of understand exactly how this community works. So let's take a look at that. Dear Cis People is a place for trans people to send an anonymous message to the cis population as a whole. It is meant to be a means of opening a communication line from people who are often silenced, either inadvertently or otherwise. Submit whatever you want, but while honest anger will come through, a small amount of discretion for certain things has been given to the admin. Control has been handed over to Amy, a trans woman / former EMT / LGBT activist. All messages are anonymous, because everyone needs a safe place to vent. Mecca Smith. Well, Allah Akbar, Mecca. I think you've said it for everybody. Everybody does need a safe place to vent, and it looks like this is a community for trans people to vent about cis people. Now, if you're confused, what is a cis person? I think you'll start to get an idea of it as we go through these postings. Now, if you watch the other two Tumblrism videos, you know that I like to get a feel for the people running this. Before we get into the Tumblr, before we see the community itself, let's see who set it up. Right? We read the About section, and it's got some ground rules. There are other things there too, like, don't make death threats or post people's personal information. Very blasé, very basic things that you would expect to find on any community on the internet, really. But let's see who these co-admins are, because it says co-admin Tumblr 1 and co-admin Tumblr 2. So let's take a look at co-admin number 1, Stolen Blue Box, and we've got an About Me section right there. That's great. I'm kind of complicated. I'm an EMT, an LGBT activist, a digital designer, an audio engineer by training, a photographer, a videographer by passion, a hard femme transgender lesbian living out 24/7 and dealing with the world, friends, family, and being born with the wrong body. I'm also married to my wonderful wife. She is awesome. Also, my mammalian complex is the size of the Hulk. Imagine a Hulk shaped like a kitty, and that's my mammalian complex. So there are plenty of things like kitties and puppies and babies and wibbles. Let me be clear. Everyone can be called out at any point. Trans, cis, straight, gay, bi-pan, white, POC, able, disabled, neurotypical, feminist, people who are people, and the golden rule is people suck on occasion. Alright, so that's admin number 1. A very interesting individual, I'm sure you'd agree. Well, let's take a look at admin number 2. Let's find out a little bit about this person, the not-so-cliche world of W. About me. So, who am I? Whit/Whitney, white, 19, MAAB, trans female, gender fluid, 5'10", 155 pounds, BDSM enthusiast, subslave, born in Wisconsin, going to school in Minnesota, majoring in American politics, minoring in women's and gender studies and war, peace, and terrorism. Feminist, trying to become more sex positive and body positive. Autistic, PC console gamer, polyamorous, sex worker, a lover of tattoos and piercings, don't drink, smoke, do drugs of any sort. Atheist, able-bodied passing, a lover of politics, pro-choice, pansexual, demisexual, cats, aspirations to be a career trans right activist, politician, or a porn star. Well, just lovely. Just an autistic, atheist, feminist, transsexual. Okay, I think we all know, after reading these two bios, exactly what we're getting into. I think we should all have a very, very clear idea of what Dear Cis People is going to be like. Well, now that we know who both the admins are and we've seen the About section, let's jump in. Let's find out what these trans people are like and what's so terrible about these horrible, horrible cis people. Now, I've taken the liberty of grabbing a cross-section of different postings on this particular Tumblr. There are many pages, 70-plus pages, so I grabbed a little bit of each and tried to arrange them so you get a flavor, an idea of what this community's like and what is exactly wrong with those fucking cis pigs. So let's take a look. Dear Cis People, insisting you use my preferred name/pronouns doesn't make me a bad person. Dear Cis People, stop justifying yourself using the wrong pronouns. Dear Cis People, it's not okay for you to call me by the wrong pronouns, even if you're quoting someone else. Dear Cis People, pronouns are hard to adjust to. I get it. But at least make an effort and don't refer to me by my non-preferred pronouns when I'm not around. Just think, you may hate someone, but you still give them the respect of correctly gendering them. I'd like that same respect. Oh my God. I don't know how I could deal with this. These poor people. Having others use their non-preferred pronouns, my God, I don't know how I'd react to that. I'd probably, hide under my bed, board up the house, and pray that it just stops. Now, you may be saying to yourself, I don't know what the hell a preferred pronoun is. Well, you're in luck. I happen to have a list of preferred pronouns that's going to help ease you out of your bigotry and cis-hatred and lead you into the promised land of equality and rainbows. Now, you're going to recognize a few of these, him and her, she and he, they and them. I mean, these are familiar ones we've all grown up with and we've used for a long time. But that's not where it ends. Now, you need to learn the new pronouns. Get ready. First up, we've got Z and here. That's Z-E and H-I-R. Fee and per, P-H-E and P-E-R. Thon and thon. That's a pretty easy one to remember. It's just thon. E and M. But the list doesn't end there. No. If you look on the side there, more gender-neutral pronouns. Well, let's see what we've got. Z, ni, one, ze, se, ve, te, e, yoko, re, ne, hu, te, ve. Now, if you're thinking to yourself, my God, it sounds like he's speaking Klingon, you probably watch too much Star Trek. But it's close. It's close. Now, this could be confusing. I mean, there are so many pronouns there. How do you do it? I mean, these people are talking about, you should always ask. And I know that from now on, that's what I'm going to do. When I go into a job interview, I'm not going to say hello. I'm going to say, excuse me, before we start this, allow me to ask you, what are your preferred pronouns? If I'm in church, forget communion. I need to ask the priest, excuse me, what are your preferred pronouns? And of course, if somebody's being murdered down the street and screaming for help, I'm going to call that operator. But first, before I tell them where the crime is actually taking place, I'm going to be sure to address them by their preferred pronouns, and I'm going to ask them. Now, you may be thinking to yourself, oh my God, I'm a horrible piece of cis scum, but I'd like a preferred pronoun. They sound kind of cool. How could I get one, even though I'm normal? So I technically probably shouldn't have one. Well, here you go. It's your own little chart. You can use it. Just take one from the first column and one from the second column, put them together, and boom. You're no longer just a cis piece of shit. You're something special now. Maybe you're going to be a cisgender, bi-fictive, pan-religious, pony spiritualist. It's up to you. How about a necrosexual, trans-ethnic, heterospecies, cisgender? Okay. Maybe a polyphilic, A-abled, femi-romantic, paraspecies, non-religious, heterokin. Just remember, when you meet somebody, be sure to tell them those are your preferred pronouns, and make sure to check their privilege every time they forget that you are a other sexual, demi-ethnic, trans-fictive, able-bodied pan pony. It's not your fault. They're oppressing you. It's their fault. Dear cis people, one does not choose one's gender, one does choose one's gender's presentation. Dear cis people, I do not go on about gender, you go on about gender. I correct you when you misgender me, sure. And then we have a conversation where you argue grammar and or convenience, and I have to explain dysphoria for the 100th time. And then on the off occasion, when I have an opinion about gender, what with fast becoming an expert on it, you tell me I'm going on about it. Piss off, dear cis people. Please stop describing yourself as having accepted your assigned gender. You just happen, by chance, to match it. And saying you accept it implies that trans people are all just being fussy. And stop putting cis in those contemptuous commas, i.e. cis. It's rude. It implies you'd rather say normal. And you're not normal. There is no normal. And to imply that there is the single most bothering thing. Well, I'll be. That's a very good point. There is no normal. There is no statistical thing that exists that constitutes what being a norm is. That's a term that doesn't actually exist. If you asked a statistician or a psychologist or a sociologist and said, what is a norm? They would not be able to answer it because that's something that exists off in crazy land. Clearly, this person is an expert on it. There is no normal. I mean, heterosexuality, that's just, I don't know, that's what, 3% of the population? That's not normal. No, clearly, being transsexual is more normal. Or equally as normal. Even though statistically, transsexuals are what you would call an outlier from any population you might study. No, I'm sorry, I'm using those magical crazy words again that academics might. Boy, they sure like to talk about gender though, don't they? Misgendering, gender me this, my gender, your gender, our gender, everybody's gender. Now maybe you're one of those old-fashioned people that still uses the term sex. Yeah, male and female, right? One can produce eggs, one can produce spermatozoa. But you would be behind the times. No, we're using gender now. All right, it doesn't matter what you're born with or assigned with, okay? That's just society keeping you down. No. We want to talk about gender. And who better to, talk about gender with than the person responsible for the new current definition of it, John Money, a renowned psychologist and sexologist who was the person who pushed it to the forefront in America and in psychology. In fact, John Money is the origin point of all the shit these people spew. So what's John Money like? He must be a great individual, a very learned man who's very tolerant and accepting and academically sound, right? I mean, that has to be the individual that's decided to create this division between sex and gender and spin it off into these wonderful things all these tumblers like to talk about. Well, if you were to, I don't know, take a moment to look him up on Wikipedia, you might find a strange little link going to somebody called David Raymer. I don't know who that is. It must not be somebody important. Maybe that's somebody John Money helped, right? I mean, he's somehow connected to John Money. Let's just take a look. What the hell? David Raymer, 1965 to 2004. Oh, he's dead. Oh, well, let's get whatever. Was a Canadian man, born as a healthy male, but was sexually reassigned and raised as female after his penis was accidentally destroyed during circumcision. That's a bit rough. Psychologist John Money, oh, here's the connection, oversaw the case and reported the reassignment as successful, and as evidenced that gender identity is primarily learned. That's interesting. So he used this as a foundational piece for his ideology, his philosophy. I guess this must have turned out well for David. I mean, here's John Money, the person responsible for putting this idea out there, and here's a case where a boy is disfigured, but John's like, hey, it's okay, we'll just cut the rest of it off and give you some hormone pills, call you Susie, and you'll be fine. Oh, wait a second, though. What does this say? Academic sexologist Milton Diamond later reported that Raymer failed to identify as a female since the ages of 9 to 11, and then began living as a male at age 15. Severe depression, committed suicide, financially unstable, troubled marriage. Sounds like everything worked out well for him. Oh, except for that whole suicide thing. But you can't blame that on Dr. Money. He probably handled this with the utmost care. Oh, what is this? Dr. Money forced the twins to rehearse sexual acts involving thrusting movements, with David playing the bottom role. David Raymer painfully recalled that as a child, he had to get down on all fours with his brother Brian Raymer up behind his butt, with his crotch pressed against his buttocks. Dr. Money forced David in another sexual position to have his legs spread with Brian on top. Dr. Money also forced the children to take their clothes off and engage in genital inspections, and on at least one occasion took photographs of the two children during these activities. Wow. Something, I think my spidey sense is tingling here. I don't know why, though. Let me see if I can put these pieces together. A man named John Money, a sexologist/psychologist, who put forward the idea of gender as we know it today, and is the preeminent figure that pushed that forward in the American vocabulary, the vernacular. He put it out there. He's the one who said, hey, sex and gender are different, is responsible for the mutilation of a toddler, for his molestation, his financial instability, his severe depression, and then his suicide. And to top it off, this particular case is the one he used as evidence that his gender identity theory is correct, because gender identity is primarily learned, except for the fact that David Reimer killed himself. He killed himself. Well, you know what? I am a horrible cis oppressor. I'm just a bigoted straight person. So what do I know, right? Left field here. I'm completely out of the ballpark. So let's move on. Let's take a look at a few more of these. Dear cis people, what makes you think we care about your approval? Well, call me crazy, but I'd say 70 pages of you whining about not being accepted makes me think you might care about being approved of. I don't know. Throwing that out there. Maybe I'm just crazy again and just off in left field once more. Dear cis people, just because I'm gay without a penis doesn't mean I like cock up my ass. I'm a dominant top. Get over it. Dear cis people, I'm a lesbian. Having a dick doesn't change that. Well, I think there might be a few lesbians out there that just might disagree with that idea. Dear cis people, no one cares about your magical cis vaginas, as opposed to your normal cis vaginas. These are magical. They pull rabbits out of hats and make flowers appear. Dear cis people, having a vagina doesn't automatically make someone a female. Just like having a penis shouldn't make someone look male. Your cissexism is showing if you believe that. Please check your privilege. Dear cis people, stop getting so pissed off when you're referred to as cis. Fuck you, it's not an insult. It's actually who you are. If you can't handle being referred to as cis, then try living a day in my shoes. You don't, and never will, be oppressed for being cis. Dear cis people, you don't get to have an opinion on being trans. If I come out to you, it's not a space for you to tell me all your thoughts on being trans, or for you to say you don't like it. It's me telling you how you're going to talk to me from now on. Dear cis people, yes, it's okay for minority groups to exclude those who don't belong to them. And no, the reverse is not okay. You belong everywhere else, and until we do too, get out. Well, they all seem to be wonderfully reasonable individuals to me. I mean, let's just recap here. Trans people can't do anything wrong. If you're cis, there is something wrong with you, but don't get offended if somebody calls you that. If you do get offended by being called cis, check your privilege. Trans people can talk about being transsexual, but you can't ask them about it. If you refer to them the wrong way, you're a bigot. Also, you're not allowed to be a part of any community they're a part of. You belong everywhere, so fuck off. And that's totally not racist or bigoted or any ism that you can think of, because it's okay. They're trans, and you're not. The weird part of this is, when you go through this whole Tumblr, they talk about all the hate they get. They go on and on and on about being misgendered and about being oppressed and excluded, but really, what you're confronted with when you're listening to them talk is them getting upset because they're not being treated differently. That's what they're really angry about. They say, we want to be like everybody else. We just want equal respect. Treat us like you would anybody else. The problem is, that's what they're getting. If you want to run around and tell people they have to speak a certain way around you, don't be surprised when they don't want to talk to you or have anything to do with you. This controlling behavior of trying to make other people behave the way you want them to is going to accomplish nothing. I mean, really, at the end of the day, I think pretty much anybody can agree, nobody likes an attention whore. Somebody who is desperate to be the center of everything and be treated differently than everyone else, whether it's on the internet or in real life. And that is exactly what this Tumblr is about. They want to be treated specially and different. They don't want equality. Equality would mean being called a dumb motherfucker and having to walk it off like anybody else would. No, they want to have the ability, when they're called a dumb motherfucker, to have the whole of society turn around and say, oh my God, that's terrible. That poor oppressed person. We need to do something for that specific individual because they wanted to cut their penis off and call themselves something different. Get over yourself. Well, I hope this has been informative to all you cis-sexist pigs and bigots and Nazis and racists. You're all horrible individuals. All right? Transsexuals can do no wrong. So remember,
Die cis scum.